Hi, I'm Angela from Adelaide Walk, and along with Middy and maybe one or two other cats, I thought I'd have a look today at the weaving kit that we've got and how you go about setting it up and weaving a few things. So first off is some instructions. As I'm outside, we'll just weight that down. Then as you can see, there's lots of options in here. We've got wool tops, all British wool in various shades, and some dyed merino, various other bits of yarn, lots of choices, different weights, different thicknesses, beautiful little bit of art yarn there, fluffy yarns, nice to have things with different textures. Then inside, as you can see on here, is the bits that's around the needles is your warp thread. Then you've got the frame, the comb for beating it down, and 2 needles. You'll find that this is on a card which is just got these sticky dots on just to keep it all in place. So take that off there. The only other thing you're going to need is a pair of scissors so that you can cut your yarn. Now you can see there's a number of holes along here. This first set of smaller holes, which are the same size as these, are the ones that you're going to warp your thread through. These are at the bottom are for if we want to sort of hang a fringe off it, and the larger ones in the corners are so that you can hang your thread for hanging it up. And so to begin, we're going to warp it up. Now there's 2 ways of warping it up. One will allow you to reuse the frame, and the other one won't. So if I want to leave it on, then instead of going down and through this next one at the bottom here, what I'll do is just come straight through the top. I've left too long a thread. I didn't want to cut what was there. Down through the bottom one, up through this next one, so you can see that you get these like little stitches along as you, so I'll go in through there, out through here, in through there, out through here. So if you want to weave along at home, and I'll show you again in a minute when I get to the other end. Okay, so you can see that I've gone in and out of each hole. If you look at the back, you can see the little stitches as you go in one out of the other. Now you cannot take this version off, so if you want to do one first where you take it off, you need to do it like that, where you've got an extra set of warp threads on the back, which means you can cut it off, weave those ends in out of sight. But when you come to leave it on, this is the way that you do it. Now you see that I did a knot at the bottom first, and now I'm just going to go around and check that I've got this evenly tight. I don't want it so tight that I try to bend the frame, but you can see it was a little too loose. And then what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to fasten it off onto the last one, onto your last warp thread, when I can get it through. And I can't do it because I'm showing you. Okay. And then I will do that again just to make sure it holds. So tighten it up. This one and the one that you did at the beginning, make sure that you've left a reasonable tail on it so that you can weave it into the back of your finished item. So there we are, you're all warped up and ready to go. So you can start with any that you like. I'm going to start with these tops, but as you can see, if I put the whole of that through, it would be very big. What you can do is to split them down into a different thickness. Now you can manipulate this through with your fingers, or you can take this little fluffy end here, feed it through one of your needles, and then, I'm sure we all did this at school, under over, the needle's long enough to go right across, and actually I'm going to do a second line of this. Shouldn't have let go, should I? It would have been easier for me. So obviously opposite this time, and you can see if I try to work here it's more difficult, but if you go up there it's much easier to pick up my warp threads. What you don't want to do is to pull these warp threads in too far, and you can see I've just taken that down with my hands. But what I also want to show you is that you can lump this up if you want. Let's have some bigger ones. Might take it out and just have some really big chunky bits on the end. So now it's in. Just manipulate it along until you've got the size of the ones that you want. And you can see a really big, lovely, lumpy texture. So you can make that as large or as small as you like. We'll go to a yarn next. How about this one? This is quite nice with all the little flecks in. For those of you who've not done it before, if you hook your yarn over the thin end of your needle, keep it squished, excuse any grubby fingers, I've been gardening, makes it much easier to thread through the hole. It doesn't matter which side I start from, just push those down out of the way, but obviously opposite to last time with your under over. Leave a tail at the back for weaving in later. Push it down. And we're going back the other way. Now what you'll see with a lot of people when they do their first weaving is that it will start to come in on this side, and you can see if I pull that too tight, you see how it's pulling this in and giving us a big gap. So don't pull it too tight, you can hold it there, and then we're ready to go again. Obviously you don't have to copy what I've done, your box may have slightly different yarns and things in it. You can just do a couple of lines to tie up, or you can do a lot of this one, but you can keep going like that. So we'll have a little break and then I'll come back and show you how to go just part way across. So if you want to go part way across, we'll start a new yarn here. I'm going to go, we'll go to there. The first row is very easy. Leaving my tail, shift that down the back. Then I'm coming round this one to come back. So you can see I've only gone part way across the row, but the same thing, if I pull that too tight, I will lose this warp thread. Even if I wrap just round that, I could end up with a gap depending on what I put there. So leave it nice and loose. When you beat it down, you can see that it's coming across into this gap. Now this is useful if you're doing shapes, which includes geometric shapes, but also if you want to do landscape type work. So pop it down. and I'm going to come up one each time so you can see how that works. So you can see on my return this time that I'm stopping short. Going back. And can you see how the shape is building up? So you can do that. You can have it, you know, completely always going up the same one, so you get a nice solid block. Or if you're trying to do sort of more hill type structures, more organic and fluid, then you can stop it at any point that you like. Okay, and now in a minute I'll show you how to do the other side. Remember when you're changing yarn to leave a tail to go in at the back. If you chop it too close here it might come undone. And then I'm going to attempt this art yarn. Not used this before in a weaving, but it's really interesting, and you can see if you keep a tight hold of it as it's going through, you can actually get it through that eye. So we'll give this one a go. Exciting. Let's see how it works. I'm going to do it further up where there's more movement in the warp to allow it to come through easily. I'm going to have to lose that one behind, I think, so that I can do a thread. Turn back to go the other way. And again, I've got too much yarn close by, haven't I? Big ones like that, and just easing it through. Let's see what happens. That's really rather lovely texture, isn't it? So this time I went to that. This next time I'm going to need to go over onto the next one. So you can see that's going to be a very thin little one. Hook it over there. If you get some particularly large ones, just give it a little helping hand through. I like it how it's kind of laid over the top. And this art yarn is all British yarn, spun for us by another small British business from Sue of Farm Crafts. And you can manipulate it so that you get those little shell shapes on the front though. Lovely textures. When you finish, you can also, like I just did with that one, pop it back out to the front. And each time I'm going a little bit further over. So we'll go back over that one. And I'm just going to keep going until this is all used up, and then choose my next one, and so on. And I can keep doing these kinds of shapes, or I can start to go straight across. Of course you could have a shape that just goes up the centre, but it's up to you as to which one to use next. So you can see after the heavily textured one, I've just used an ordinary yarn, which has allowed me to push it down and lock it into position so that won't move. Now I want to show you something called a sumac stitch. So I'm coming up, and instead of going over one, under one, I'm going to go over two and then back one. So just then over 2 and back 1. Looks a little knotty, it won't in a minute when I get it going. So over 2, back 1. And this is called a sumac stitch, and you can see by doing it in something that's quite textured that you get these. Look how lovely that looks. So over 2 and back 1. And obviously, yet again, you can do this as tight or as loose as you would like to give you these loops here. So actually I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit, going along there. Oh gosh, I've left a very long tail. I didn't intend to do that. Right, so I'll move this up. Trying not to destroy what I've done. You see folks, if it goes wrong, don't panic. Just keep going. It's only a bit of wool. You can always take it undone, fiddle with it. So I now need to go back over that just to lock it in stage, in place. Right, if you've got a cup of tea or a glass of wine when you're doing this, it's even better. Over 2, back 1. Can you see that will all get locked in position by the next yarn? What a beautiful pattern it creates. Get to the end, and not helped by the breeze today. Right, just hold that down, out of the way. Doesn't that create such a lovely pattern? So as you get towards the top, it's obviously going to get more difficult to put it in, but you can really push it down to work. And the more full this is, the better. So push it down again, look. Get that one. Keep pushing it down for as long as you can, because you really want this to be full, because what we don't want to see is the warp threads. So the more you can push it down, because you can push it down, they'll expand back up over these top threads later, hiding them for you. So you can see that I've used plain yarns in between textured ones. If you use all your textured together, you lose some of the texture. The plain helps, but also when you finish you can go along and zhuzh it. So where you've got these little like eyelash yarns, make sure you pull all the little bits out so you get the maximum amount of texture. Where you've used this, you can see some of the coils are on the back. Is it at all possible to push or pull any more bits of those through, and you can feel them with your fingers, just to get the maximum amount of texture on the front. So the last thing to do is to, not quite the last, but to weave in your ends. Pretty easy. We have given you one of these. Apologies it's plastic, but it is child friendly. We will look to replace these in if we can, but some of this is quite difficult and long to get through. If you've left yourself a tiny little tail like this to get, what I sometimes do is put my needle through where I want it to go, then thread it. Let's see if I can get this one through. Sometimes if you untwist the yarn and flatten it a little bit, it's easier to get through. I'm sorry, I'm working with such a tiny bit. I hope this is okay, that you can see what I'm doing. Trying to do it left-handed so you get some kind of shot. So there you go, look. I've got a tiny little end, but by putting the needle through first, and I'm holding it on the front so I don't pull it too tight, I can get in even the shortest of ends at the back. Once you've done all your ends, I think it'd be fun to have a tassel on the front. So somewhere I did cut some bits. So I've cut 3 pieces. I'd say that's about 20 centimetres long, 8 inches. Double it. You can use this if it's a problem to go through. And now I'm trying to remember, do I do it from the front or the back? I think this is the correct way to put these through. Okay, so I put this through. There's my loop. Hope you can see that okay. I put my ends through the loop and pull, and you go along and do that. And I've used 3 thicknesses, about 20 inches, so I'll go along and do the rest and we'll have a look. Okay, so here it is finished. Got a lovely fringe on it, and I've just used 3 strands of yarn to create a hanger for it. Really loving the texture. Hope you can see that okay. You look sideways, I don't know if you can see all that beautiful texture you get in it. And I'll just show you that you can see there is plenty for you to actually do too. One to take off and one to leave on the loom. So I hope you enjoy your use of it.